You knew my father. You've known me my whole life. Do you think I'm the Bay Harbor Butcher?
Of course not.
Yes, I was the Bay Harbor Butcher, but I wasn't the only one with blood on his hands. See, monsters like me don't survive without help, and mine wore a badge, ran a precinct, played golf with mayors, and knew exactly what I was. Captain Tom Matthews. He was the kind of man who knew how to play the game, not just the politics, but the deeper one, the game of secrets, of silence. You'd never think to look at him and see someone complicit in the deaths of, well, we'll save the number for another video. Let's just say it wasn't small, but he knew, he always knew. But to understand why a man like Matthews would protect someone like me, you have to go back to my father, back to Harry, Matthews' best friend, his confidant, his conscience, and in some ways his co-conspirator. They weren't just cops together, they were architects of a certain kind of justice, the kind that doesn't always come with a trial.
Tom, this is a surprise. Come on in.
Oh, thanks.
In fact, the day before Harry swallowed a bottle of pills, he met with Matthews, not to confess, not to beg for forgiveness, but to ask for one last favor. Look after my kids. My father asked him, and for whatever reason Matthews did, faithfully, quietly, relentlessly, through promotions, scandals, transfers, and bloodstains. He watched over Deborah like a surrogate father, stubbornly supportive even when she defied protocol, logic, and basic human decency. And me, he watched over me like a man watching a fuse waiting to see if it would reach the bomb. He didn't protect me because he didn't know. He protected me because he did. Captain Tom Matthews, a man who could smell political weakness from across the precinct, and moral rot without flinching. To most people in Miami Metro, he was the bureaucratic backbone with a crisp collar, polished shoes, and handshake like a firm warning. To me, he was something else entirely. Not a mentor, not exactly a friend, more like a silent partner in murder. He never said it out loud. Not once, but the truth was always there, between the lines of his compliments. The quiet pauses in our conversations, the way he'd shut the door before asking me questions. "You're one of our best, Morgan." That's what he'd say. Not good work, not keep it up, just one of our best, as if to say, I know exactly what you are, and I choose to look away. It started subtly, a misplaced piece of evidence, a report rewritten in my favor, the kind of interference that could be chalked up to clerical error, if you were naive, or complicit. He wasn't covering for me, he was managing me. There were signs, little administrative wrinkles, that should have caught attention, misplaced blood slide logs, reports edited after submission, a few too many cases where suspects just vanished.
Now, you have exactly the time it takes for me to finish my drink to explain why you're really here.
Any decent supervisor would have flagged it, but Matthews? He made the noise disappear, the kind of quiet that only comes from someone deleting, not overlooking. I noticed a pattern. A few officers who poked too hard into my work, who asked one too many questions about blood reports or suspect IDs, didn't last long. They were reassigned, transferred, or suddenly interested in early retirement. I never heard Matthews threaten anyone, but the silence was always prompt and effective, sometimes saying nothing is louder than a scream. He wasn't oblivious. He was methodical. He didn't need to understand my code to appreciate the outcome. Criminals disappeared. Crime rates dropped, and his department looked good. It was a win-win, except for the bodies, of course. There was one moment, early on, when I knew he'd figured it out. It was after that double homicide in Coconut Grove. The perp vanished. No leads. No prints. Just a smear of blood in the alleyway. And a phantom in the precinct. Matthews called me into his office, closed the blinds, and sat down, just between us.
Said you wanted to see me.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Sit.
Your father would be proud, he said. That was it. No further questions. No reprimand. Just an approval rating wrapped in nostalgia. Most people get job reviews. I got a silent nod for dismembering someone in a storage unit. He never asked. He never had to. Because deep down Matthews didn't want to stop me. He may have wanted to control me, or at least make damn sure I didn't get sloppy enough to cause him trouble. And in return, I gave him clean streets. A city that feared something dark in the night, but didn't know its name, because Captain Matthews made sure that they never found out. If there was one person in Miami Metro who refused to let go of a bone, it was Maria LaGuerta. She was relentless, calculated, driven by ambition and an ego large enough to have its own precinct, and dangerously perceptive when it mattered most. She spent years climbing the ranks, one political maneuver at a time. By the time she set her sights on the Bay Harbor Butcher case, she had one thing most of my past victims didn't: institutional power. And worst of all, she had a hunch. At first she was subtle about it, a few questions, whispered doubts, stares that lasted just a little too long. She wasn't supposed to reopen the Bay Harbor butcher case. The FBI had already buried it, and Dokes had taken the fall. Posthumously, of course. But once she publicly questioned the FBI's conclusion, the danger became very real. She pulled old blood slides, connected dots that others had missed.
The Bay Harbor butcher took blood slides from his victims. Dexter is a blood spatter analyst, and Dokes always thought there was something off about Dexter.
She even started following me. And Matthews saw it happening. He didn't like danger, especially not the kind that came with headlines and subpoenas. Like before, he tried to smother the fire before it spread, redirected her, gaslit her.
So what's your advice?
Get on your knees and start kissing anything that even remotely resembles a
Tried to rein her in, quietly, pulled strings, shifted her focus, suggested she was chasing ghosts. But LaGuerta wasn't chasing a ghost. She was chasing the truth, chasing me, and she found it. Dexter, I know it was you, she once said. No theatrics, no bluff, just pure unfiltered certainty. The kind that makes a man like me very uncomfortable. Matthews knew it too. I saw it in his face. That look he gave me when LaGuerta brought her evidence forward. Matthews didn't argue, didn't accuse. He just looked at me, like he was taking inventory of a disaster he'd been trying to avoid for years. It was the kind of look a man gives the ceiling when the roof starts to leak, when he remembers ignoring it during sunny weather. Matthews tried one last maneuver, a promotion offer, a departmental reshuffle, but it was too late. LaGuerta was already too far gone. She didn't want politics anymore. She wanted justice. Now here's the hard part. LaGuerta wasn't disposable, not to me. I couldn't just get rid of her because she found out the truth about me. She didn't fit the code. She wasn't a murderer. Yes, she was a problem, but she was also an innocent. And I don't kill the innocent. That's what made it so complicated. In the end, the choice wasn't mine, not entirely. She walked into a trap meant for someone else, and Deborah pulled the trigger. Matthews didn't stop it, but for the first time, he didn't protect me either. He stepped back, let things play out. Maybe he thought it would resolve itself. Maybe he didn't want to know. Maybe that was his version of justice. Or maybe he finally realized that shielding a monster doesn't absolve you. It just gets you closer to the blood spray. LaGuerta died chasing the truth, and Matthews, he went back to his office, closed the blinds, and waited for the storm to pass. There's this idea that morality is black and white, right and wrong, good guys versus bad guys, but people like Captain Matthews, they lived in the gray, and people like me, we thrive in it. Matthews never told me to stop, never asked why the bodies kept piling up, or how the evidence never seemed to lead anywhere. He just made sure the questions stayed rhetorical. Matthews didn't just inherit me after Harry died. He'd known me since I was a kid. Cookouts, department picnics, late-night drop-ins at our house while Harry poured coffee and quietly carried the weight of justice. I was just the quiet one in the corner, the one who didn't play with the other kids. I remember the way he looked at me, like he was sizing up a problem no one wanted to admit existed. So by the time I officially joined Miami Metro in '91, after a little blood spatter magic at a career fair, Matthews already had history with me. Not from reading my file, but from knowing the man who raised me, the man who trained me. He might not have known the details, not back then, but something told him I wasn't just a talented analyst. I was something Harry built, and he decided to protect that. Even after Harry was gone, he didn't ask questions. He just made sure I stayed on the inside, behind the badge and under the radar, because Harry had asked him to look after his children.
Called me the day before he died. Asked me to keep an eye on you and your sister. I didn't realize what that call meant until he was gone.
And Matthews kept his word. Maybe he saw what I was early on. Maybe Harry told him everything before he died. Or maybe, and this feels more accurate, maybe he just figured it out himself, and chose not to care. But his influence didn't start there. Long before I ever wore a badge, Matthews did something even more significant. He introduced Harry to Dr. Evelyn Vogel, a neuropsychiatrist who specialized in psychopathy, not because Harry asked, but because Matthews knew something was off. He saw the signs, the animals, the silence, the distance, and he pointed Harry towards someone who could help him understand it, help him manage it. It wasn't just a friendly referral, it was the first step in building what I would become. So in a way, Matthews didn't just protect the Bay Harbor butcher, he helped invent him. Some people lie to protect themselves. Matthews lied so he wouldn't have to admit the system needed me. He told himself it was balance, that my code made it acceptable, that so long as the monsters I killed were worse than me, it wasn't really blood on his hands. But here's the problem with that logic. Eventually the code gets blurry, and the people around you, they stop being just friends or colleagues. They become co-conspirators. Dokes hated and hunted me. LaGuerta wanted to catch me. Harry, well, Harry created me. But Matthews He was something else. He didn't need to understand my code or even believe in it. He just needed to know it worked, and that no one asked him to get his hands dirty. He even once told Deborah the Bay Harbor butcher was only taking out the trash in Miami. Out of everyone I encountered, he was the only one who could live with what I was, as long as he didn't have to look too closely. Matthews didn't want to believe he was helping a serial killer. He wanted to believe he was maintaining order, keeping the chaos at bay. Dexter makes us look good. That's something he actually said once. After I helped catch a suspect we both knew would never see trial. What he really meant was I clean up the messes the courts can't. He keeps his hands clean, but no one stays clean forever. Every cover-up, every sideways glance, every time he promoted me instead of questioning me. It added weight. And the thing about silent deals like ours, they don't expire. They just get heavier. Matthews was supposed to be the moral compass. Instead he became the blindfold. And the more he refused to look at what I was doing, the more he became part of it. It wasn't just me Matthews kept his eyes on. There was Deborah. He watched over her too. Not like he did with me. Not with that cautious sidelong gaze he reserved for things he suspected were dangerous, but out of something more old-fashioned. With Deb it was different. Protective. Paternal. She was Harry's daughter. Stubborn. Volatile. Emotionally allergic to authority, and somehow Matthews still saw her as family, or maybe as a promise. The other half of a dying man's final request. He fast-tracked her promotions, backed her when her instincts got ahead of her evidence, covered for her when her emotions bled into her work, and sometimes into her weapon. Then when she started getting too close to something dangerous.
You know, some cases are better left alone.
Fuck. I can't do this. I know you were one of her clients.
Excuse me?
Too close to me. Matthews did the same thing he always did. He made it quiet, stepped in again, quietly, carefully. I heard from someone in Vice that he called her into his office once, told her to stop digging, warned her that the case she was chasing would ruin more than reputations. It would break people. He didn't say my name. He didn't have to. Maybe it was for my sake. Maybe he still saw the blood on his hands and figured one more favor wouldn't make a difference. But I don't think so. I think he was trying to protect her, from the truth, from the fallout. From the moment she'd have to look at her brother and realize the monster she swore didn't exist was standing right in front of her. Matthews couldn't save Harry. He couldn't stop me. But maybe, just maybe, he thought he could save Deborah. He failed. Just like all of us. There's a moment for everyone when silence stops being protection and starts sounding like complicity. For Captain Matthews, that moment came when LaGuerta died. She died chasing the truth, and he let it happen. He didn't pull the trigger. He didn't even know where it would happen, or how. But he knew enough to stop it. To stop me. But he didn't. He stepped back, let the game play out, let me and Deb deal with the consequences. I used to think it was loyalty, that Matthews was protecting the code, protecting Harry's wishes, protecting me. But maybe he wasn't protecting anything. Maybe he was just tired of holding up the mask of righteousness while the monster behind it sharpened his knives. He always did hate confrontation, unless it was over golf scores or departmental funding. After LaGuerta, something in Matthews changed. He got quieter, less sharp, like all that denial he'd stockpiled for years had finally caved in on itself. He didn't say anything to me directly, but the silence, it wasn't the same as before. It didn't feel like a shield anymore. It felt like a retreat. He knew what I was. He helped keep that secret longer than anyone, longer than Harry, longer than Deborah, longer than Vogel, longer than even I had realized. But Captain Matthews never tried to stop me, and that's what haunts me now. Not his silence, but the fact that he never needed to be convinced. He saw what I was becoming back in the 90s, and he decided that a monster with a badge was better than one without one. I don't think he ever forgave himself for that, but I don't think he regretted it either. We both made our peace with the blood, just in different ways. Some people go to confession. Matthews just went back to work. He didn't retire. He didn't confess. He just slipped back into the uniform of silence. Same rank, same desk, same secrets. And maybe that's the most damning thing of all. He helped build Miami Metro's walls, and then hid the rot behind the paint. The silence didn't last forever. Eventually someone pulled the thread, and what unraveled wasn't just my life. It brought Dexter back from the dead, and gave the franchise another chance to get it right. Watch the next video to see how.